This happened 20 years ago. I was excited to go back to my childhood camp for a reunion. I had so many good memories there. As I climbed the old path, I could see the cabins and the lake. They looked worn down. I knew it had been years since the last summer session, but I didn't expect it to look so neglected. I thought about all the fun times. On the first night, my friends and I gathered around the fire. We laughed and shared our favorite stories. Then, someone mentioned the tale of the 7 campers who vanished in the 90s. At first, we chuckled, but the mood shifted quickly. The laughter faded. A chill ran through me. I didn't know why it affected me so strongly. As the night went on, strange noises started coming from the woods. At first, I thought it was just the wind. But the sounds felt different. I heard twigs snapping, and then whispers like they were calling my name. My skin prickled as I looked into the dark trees. Shadows moved, but I couldn't see what they were. My heart raced, but I tried to laugh it off. It didn't work. Later, I found an old journal among the camp's forgotten stuff. It was dusty, and I could feel the grit on my fingers. When I opened it, I saw strange symbols mixed in with the notes. The entries talked about each disappearance, and the symbols looked too organized to be random doodles. I felt a surge of unease. What if those stories were true? I showed my friends what I found, but they laughed again. It's just an old campfire story, one said. I wasn't so sure. There was something off about this place. The air felt thick, uneasy. As we sat around the fire again, I couldn't shake the fear that something was watching us. While my friends joked, I felt a knot in my stomach. Just beyond the trees, I thought I saw movement. My breathing quickened. The laughter sounded wrong, echoing through the night like a warning. I stepped away from the group for a minute. I walked towards the lake. It was too quiet. Moonlight shimmered on the water, and I saw my reflection. Suddenly, I heard a loud splash. I jumped back. Maybe it was just a fish, I told myself. But then I saw something else darker than the water itself. I turned to go back to my friends. But then I stopped. I thought I heard someone calling my name. Mark? It was soft, almost a whisper. I looked back, but there was only the lake. My heart raced. I ran back to the campfire, not daring to look behind me. I wasn't sure what I'd find if I did. I faced my friends, my heart pounding. Something was off, and I couldn't explain it. The woods felt alive, and I got the sense that they held secrets I wasn't meant to uncover. The next morning, I woke up early, unable to shake the events of the night before. I needed fresh air and clarity, maybe some coffee too. As I stepped out of the cabin, the sun was just rising, casting a gentle glow over the camp. But the warmth didn't ease the chill I felt inside. I wandered to the mess hall, hoping to find my friends. The place had an eerie silence that made my skin crawl. The laughter and joy I remembered felt like a distant memory. I chose a seat by the window, wanting to see the woods but dreading what might come out of them. After a few minutes, Lisa joined me. "You okay?" she asked. I forced a smile and nodded but didn't mention the whispers. Something told me she wouldn't understand. She filled her plate and chatted about barbecue plans later. I kept my comments casual, hiding the knot in my stomach. Later, we gathered at the lake. As my friends splashed and joked, I sat apart, staring at the water. It was still, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was hiding something. I remembered the journal and what it said about the disappearances, how each one had happened close to this very spot. My heart raced again. I couldn't mention it either. They'd just laugh. But a part of me felt responsible for not raising the alarm. That's when I spotted something half buried in the sand by the shore. Curiosity got the better of me, and I walked over. It was a small, weathered bracelet, silver and inlaid with tiny blue stones. I picked it up, feeling its cool surface. There was a sense of familiarity. I turned it over and saw an inscription, "Forgive me." My breath hitched. I had never seen this before, yet a strange memory flickered at the back of my mind. "Mark! Come on, join us!" one of my friends shouted. I glanced back, but my heart wasn't in the games. "In a minute," I called, still holding the bracelet like it was some kind of talisman. I looked around to see if there was more buried beneath the sand. Maybe this was from one of the campers. My mind spun with questions. Who did it belong to? Why was it here? Suddenly, I felt the air shift around me. A cold breeze rushed through, drawing my attention back to the woods. Then I saw something move in the trees. A figure, distinctly human, but far too still. My heart sank, and panic rose. I squinted, trying to make sense of it, but it was gone as quickly as it had come. "Mark, let us go." Lisa's voice drifted in my ear. I shot her a panicked look. I wanted to scream, to tell them what I had seen, what I had found. But the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I slipped the bracelet into my pocket, a grim token from this place. As we headed back to the camp, a thought gnawed at me, the story of the campers who vanished. What if they were still here, trapped like this bracelet, waiting for someone to remember them? After lunch, the others decided to go hiking, but I stayed behind. Unease clawed at me, so I sat on the cabin porch, listening to the laughter fading into the woods. The bracelet sat heavy in my pocket, as if urging me to dig deeper into its mystery. I had to know where it came from and why it felt so familiar. I pulled the journal from my bag, flipping through its pages again. The entries were chaotic, filled with stories of fun and friendship, but they all spiraled into darkness towards the end. Each camper's disappearance was noted as if it were part of a twisted countdown. I zeroed in on the most recent entry, which detailed a picnic by the lake. The last line read, "I saw something, and now I can't find them." My hands trembled. Had this bracelet belonged to someone from that day? I wondered how many other items lay buried beneath that sandy shore. I should have gone back to the lake. I should have turned the bracelet over to Lisa or anyone who could help piece together what was happening here. Instead, I was stuck on this porch, paralyzed by fear. Suddenly, a sharp sound interrupted my thoughts, a crack of twigs from the forest. I froze, my heart in my throat. I glanced around, half expecting to see Lisa or one of the others emerging from the trees. But no one came. I stood up slowly, peering over the railing toward the woods. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaky. No answer. I took a step toward the edge of the porch, scanning the line of trees. That's when I noticed it again, movement, just out of sight. My heart was racing now, pounding in my ears. I felt drawn to it, something pulling me toward the shadows. What if it was just an animal? Or worse, what if it was something else entirely? I fought the urge to retreat but found my legs moving forward. I approached the tree line, every instinct screaming at me to turn back. As I stepped into the shade, I saw something glittering between the roots of an old oak tree. I bent down, my hands shaking as I brushed away the leaves. My breath hitched again. It was another bracelet, similar to the first, but this one was different. It was dark, covered in grime, and inscribed with a name, Hannah. The chill running down my spine felt deeper this time. I had to know who she was. My mind raced. Was she one of the vanished campers? Why was it here, hidden away? I quickly stood, glancing around to see if anyone had followed me. The forest felt still and watching. Then, I heard a whisper, not far away, chilling my bones. "Help me!" In that moment, I felt every hair on my body stand on end. This was no longer just a mystery. It was a warning. The stories, the disappearances, it was all connected. I stepped back, ready to bolt, my thoughts a chaotic mess. I needed to find my friends. I needed them to understand. As I turned to leave, I heard the voice again, clearer now, tugging at my heart. Please. I'm waiting. I stumbled back, suddenly terrified of what I might find if I ventured deeper into those shadows. My feet moved before my mind could catch up, racing back to the cabin, desperate to escape whatever this place had become. What had I stumbled into? I needed answers, and I feared I was running out of time. I burst through the door of the cabin, breathing hard. The laughter from earlier felt like a distant memory. I wanted to scream for Lisa and the others, to tell them everything, but they were still lost in the woods. I glanced around, searching for anything that would help explain what was happening. I felt the weight of both bracelets in my pocket, a haunting reminder I couldn't ignore. I grabbed the journal again and read through the entries, trying to comprehend the swirl of names and dates. Each disappearance felt like a puzzle piece that didn't fit. Then I remembered the picnic by the lake and the line about seeing something. What had they seen? My pulse quickened. Hannah, I muttered, as if her name might awaken something within the cabin's walls. I flipped through the pages until I found another mention of her, a date marked one day before the end of summer camp. The entry was scrawled hastily, "She talked to the trees. They told her secrets." I think she was going to find them. I stood frozen. Secrets? What secrets? Were the campers trying to communicate with something in the woods? It felt silly to think that way, but the growing sense of unease gnawed at me. The soft creak of a floorboard snapped me from my thoughts. I turned, heart in my throat. "Lisa?" I whispered, hoping it was just her or one of the others. Instead, a rush of cold air swept through the cabin, making me shiver. My eyes darted toward the open window. The forest outside looked darker than before, shadows pooling in corners I hadn't noticed earlier. I needed to close the window, but a creeping dread held me in place. Then, I remembered the box under the bed where we stored our things. There had to be old camp supplies in there, maybe even tools that could help find out what really happened here. I hurried to the back room, my senses heightened. Kneeling beside the bed, I fished out the box and pried it open. Inside were dusty old maps, flashlight batteries, and a couple of ropes. My fingers brushed against something that felt distinctly different, a small, silver locket. I instinctively opened it, gasping as I recognized the photograph inside. It was a faded image of 3 girls, laughing. One of them wore the same bracelet I had found earlier. I clutched the locket tightly, a mix of dread and curiosity flooding over me. This locket must have belonged to one of them, possibly Hannah. What had happened to her? Just then, the whispering returned. "I'm still here." The voice floated in from the forest again, softer this time but just as haunting. I bolted upright, breathing heavily. This was too much. I needed to confront my friends, to figure out what to do next. But the forest felt more ominous now, shadows creeping closer to the cabin. As I stepped outside, I hesitated, fear gripping me. What if they don't believe me? My voice echoed back, swallowed by the thick air. I had to take the chance. I had to find them. Then it hit me, the journal. I had to show them the entries, especially the last one. Maybe together we could figure out how to find them. My heart raced as I called for Lisa. "Guys! Come back!" But as silence returned, I felt an unsettling truth land in my gut. I wasn't sure if I was truly alone, but I had a feeling that someone or something was watching me from the trees, waiting for the right moment to make its presence known. And just like that, the atmosphere shifted, like the air had grown heavy with unanswered questions. I turned back to the cabin, hoping the others would hear me before it was too late. I stepped cautiously off the porch, each creak underfoot amplifying the silence around me. Now that I was outside, the forest loomed larger, an almost sentient presence. I strained my ears for any sign of Lisa or the others, but all I heard was the wind whispering through the trees, a soft, eerie reminder of Hannah's final entry. "Where are you guys?" My voice trembled, threading through branches and boughs, but it only returned to me in a mocking way. I had to search. Maybe they had come back to the lake or were looking for a spot to set up camp. Taking a deep breath, I turned away from the cabin and moved deeper into the woods. With every step, a creeping sensation settled in my stomach. Trails of memories flooded my mind, happy campfires, warm summers, and laughter that once felt endless. Now, unease clung to each recollection. I followed a narrow path that wound like a ribbon through the trees. The leaves rustled above me, and shadows flitted just beyond my line of sight. I glanced down at the locket I held. "What secrets did you hold?" I murmured. Suddenly, something caught my eye, a flash of color peeking out from behind a cluster of bushes. I approached it, heart pounding in my chest. As I parted the leaves, a chill washed over me. It was Lisa's jacket, half buried in the underbrush, the fabric torn and muddy. "Lisa!" I cried again, panic blooming as I dropped down to examine the jacket more closely. Was this a sign? Had she been here? The realization hit me like a runaway train. If Lisa was out here, something must have happened. I had to find her. But then the whispering returned, swelling around me, mingled with a soft rustling. "Help us!" It sounded distant and close all at once, a haunting echo weaving through the trees. My skin prickled as I turned in circles, searching for the source, but the forest danced in shadows, teasing me with nothingness. "Help who?" I shouted defiantly, though my voice faltered. "What do you want from us?" A branch snapped nearby, sending my heart into overdrive. The brush moved again, and I instinctively stepped back. That's when I saw it, barely visible through the trees, a flicker of a pale hand reaching out, beckoning me forward. The urge to flee and the instinct to find my friends clashed inside me. Ignoring the trepidation blooming in my gut, I took another step toward the hand, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. "Guys?" I called incredulously, half expecting an answer. Instead, I was met with silence. My breath quickened. Something was very wrong. I dug my heels into the damp earth and made a decision. I needed to go back to the cabin. I had to find that journal and get everyone out of here. But as I turned, the forest felt like it was closing in around me. The air turned thicker, heavier, like it too wanted to drown me in darkness. That's when I noticed it, a shadow, darker than the trees, shifting just beyond my vision. I felt the chill of fear ripple down my spine. Someone or something was watching, waiting for me to make my next move. No longer safe in my own skin, I sprinted back toward the cabin, adrenaline coursing through me like a lifeline. I needed to warn everyone and uncover the truth behind these creeping shadows before it was too late. I reached the cabin, breathless and shaken. The door creaked open, and I stumbled inside, slamming it shut behind me. The wood groaned under the pressure, as if trying to warn me of the threats outside. I locked the door and leaned against it, heart racing. "Guys!" I shouted, scanning the dim interior. "Where are you?" My voice was small in the vastness of the empty room. No response. I moved to the main area, eyes darting to every corner. The fire pit was cold and ashen, the air heavy with unease. Hannah's journal lay where we had left it, but I hesitated to pick it up. What if it only contained more dark secrets? I reasoned I needed answers. I grabbed the journal and flicked it open. The pages felt brittle, and each turn felt heavier than the last. There were more entries, but the later ones were nerve-wracking. "They know," one line read. "They watch us. We have to leave." My pulse quickened as I turned to the next page. The writing grew more erratic. "She's coming for us." I shuddered as the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. Before I could dive deeper, the unsettling silence shattered. A soft knock echoed from the door, hesitant but urgent. I froze. Was it one of my friends, or something else? I couldn't risk it. Is anyone out there? I called, hoping for a familiar voice. No answer. A chill swept through the room. I crept to a window, pulling the curtain slightly aside. I was met with darkness, but the moon illuminated the path outside. I squinted and saw a figure by the edge of the woods. It stood still, as if waiting for something. I leaned closer, a sense of dread pooling in my gut. Then, just as abruptly as it appeared, the figure darted back into the forest, swallowed by the shadows. My breath hitched as I stumbled back, the journal almost slipping from my hands. Ignoring the panic rising inside me, I felt I had to take a risk. I put the journal down and grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer. Armed with a weak beam of light, I gathered every ounce of courage and approached the door. Just as I was about to turn the lock, the lights flickered, then went out, plunging me into darkness. I cursed under my breath, quickly switching on the flashlight. The beam cut through the black, but the shadows loomed larger, alive with uncertainty. I swung the flashlight back towards the door. Was that it? A whisper carried on the wind, soft but chilling. Help us! I bolted for the door, heart pounding wildly. Whatever was outside felt so close, but darkness held a firm grip on me. With every beat of my heart, I knew I had to step out, I had to find Lisa and the others. The urgency was uncontestable. As I turned the lock, the flashlight flickered again. When it steadied, the sudden gleam revealed a new horror, a handprint, smeared across the glass. I stumbled back, gasping. My hands shook as my heart screamed for the safety of the inside. Then I heard the soft creak of footsteps approaching. The cabin felt alive, breathing with the weight of the unknown. I pressed my back against the wall, heart racing, knowing something was about to break in. And at that moment, I wasn't sure if I wanted to face it or run into the dark once more. I couldn't stay still. My mind raced, slipping between fear and desperation. I needed to act, needed to see if my friends were still out there, but the thought of the handprint stopped me cold. I glanced toward the door, then back at the window, my brain churning with possibilities. What was out there? Had whatever was watching grabbed my friends? With my back still against the wall, I tossed the flashlight to the table. I needed my hands free. I paced the room, glancing at the fireplace, thinking of the logs stored nearby. If I got lucky, maybe I could light a fire and create some warmth, some safety from whatever had a hold on this camp. Just as I bent down to grab some wood, I heard it again, the rustle of footsteps. They were closer this time. I froze, straining to listen. They were quiet and almost rhythmic. My heart hammered in my ears, drowning out everything else. Then came a soft knock, just like before. I jolted up and backed against the wall again, instinctively holding my breath. Whoever or whatever was outside wanted in. Panic flooded my thoughts. Did I answer? Would it be a friend? Or worse? Please, I whispered, daring to break the silence. Is anyone there? Silence hung heavy in the air, thick with dread. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed against the door. I jumped, my lungs seizing up. That didn't sound like a person. I debated what to do, fear locking me in place, but I knew I couldn't hide. I flicked the flashlight on again. The beam sliced through the inky darkness, my only lifeline amid this chaos. I stepped closer to the door, trembling. I couldn't stand the uncertainty. Guys! If you can hear me, say something. I was desperate, I needed reassurance, anything. Maybe if I called them, they would respond. But the only reply was a chilling whisper, let us in. This wasn't a request, it was a demand. It twisted something deep inside me. I took a step back, weighing my options. Should I open the door and face whatever awaited me? Or risk remaining deadbolt inside where I couldn't tell what was creeping closer? My hands were clammy as I fumbled for the lock, knowing there was no going back now. I needed to know if my friends were all right. I could feel the heat of the moment coursing through me, pushing me toward an answer, whatever that answer might be. Just then, a reflection caught my eye in the flashlight beam. Something moved in the window, and I spun around, clutching my chest. Someone was inside the cabin. That was when I recognized the figure staring back at me. It was Lisa. But she looked different, pale and wild-eyed, as if she'd come from the depths of a nightmare. "They want to let me go," she said, her voice an eerie echo that sent shivers down my spine. Suddenly, the door shook violently, as if something was battering against it. I felt a primal instinct scream inside me, to run. But I stood frozen, my gaze locked on Lisa, and just like that, I realized this was only the beginning. Panic surged through me as I took a step back from Lisa, whose wild eyes and disheveled hair sent a chill down my spine. The door slammed once more, the sound reverberating off the walls, and I felt the old wood shudder beneath my feet. "Lisa, what happened?" I managed to ask, my voice shaky. I searched her face for some sign of reassurance, but there was none. Only fear. "They're coming," she whispered, glancing towards the door. "They took the others. You have to hide." Before I could respond, I felt a throbbing rumble underfoot, like something massive was trying to break in. My heart raced. "Hide? Where? We can't just leave. This place isn't safe. They want to stop." Lisa's voice hitched as she backed away. "Please, we have to." The door burst open with a deafening crash, splintering wood flying in all directions. My blood froze in my veins. A dark figure loomed in the doorway, silhouetted against the pale moonlight that flooded the cabin. I barely had time to register its form before instinct kicked in, propelling me toward the fireplace. I dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the figure as it stepped inside. I felt the cold air rush in behind me with its presence. Lisa was already moving, scrambling toward the window, but the figure caught her arm before she could escape. "Stop!" I shouted, my voice breaking as I desperately tried to pull her back. The figure didn't respond to me. Instead, it stared at Lisa with empty eyes. "You belong with us now," it rasped, a voice like cracked glass. Lisa screamed, and with a desperate heave, she broke free from its grip. She turned and bolted toward me, but the figure was relentless, it reached for her again. That's when I saw it, the handprint. It glowed faintly against the darkness, still visible on the door. I grabbed Lisa and tugged her back towards the fireplace. "We need to get out of here," I yelled. "No. We can't go out there. We have to find the others." Her voice trembled with fear and defiance. I felt the urge to argue, but time was not on our side. The figure stepped further into the cabin, its movement deliberate and slow. The coldness emanating from it was suffocating. "Can't you see?" I urged, panic pushing my words out. "They might already be gone. We have to defend ourselves." Just as I turned to grab a log from the fireplace for a weapon, the cabin shook violently once more. The lights flickered, and everything went dark. Just like that, we were shrouded in shadows. I could barely make out Lisa beside me. "Where are you?" she whispered, her voice barely above the pounding of my heart. "I'm here. Don't move," I shouted. Then came a low, guttural growl from the figure. The darkness deepened, and before I could react, I heard something shift behind me, a sound that didn't belong. That's when I realized we weren't alone in the cabin. The fear clawed at my throat like a physical thing as I felt the floor creak beneath me, no longer just an echo of our panic but the promise of something more sinister. I gripped Lisa's hand tight. If I had to fight, I would. But the odds were not in our favor. The shadows felt alive, crawling in closer, and I knew then that whatever was out there had come for us. Everything hung in the balance as I turned, ready to face whatever was within reach. I just hoped for a way out before the darkness consumed us completely. I didn't have time to think. Another growl echoed through the cabin, closer this time. I took a step back, dragging Lisa with me. The walls felt like they were closing in, the shadows thickening into solid forms. "Stay close," I whispered, scanning the dark corners for any sign of a threat. My heart was racing, threatening to break free from my chest. Suddenly, a sharp sound pierced the stillness like scratching. It came from the wall behind me. My breath caught in my throat. I turned slowly, every instinct screaming that this was wrong. The scratching intensified, almost rhythmic, as if someone or something was trying to claw its way in. "Do you hear that?" I asked, keeping my voice low. Lisa nodded, her face pale, eyes wide. Just ignore it," she insisted, but her voice quivered. Before I could reply, a horrible shriek echoed from outside, high-pitched and full of anguish. My stomach twisted. "It's them," I said, finding my voice. "The others must be nearby. Or worse." Lisa's voice trailed off, and my gut twisted again. I felt the heat of panic rising again as I heard footsteps. They were there, outside the cabin, moving through the brush. If they heard us, if they knew we were here, my mind raced with what might find its way inside next. I glanced around, desperate for something, anything, to defend ourselves. Near the fireplace, I spotted a rusted shovel propped against the wall. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. "Stay here," I whispered to Lisa, and before she could object, I edged toward the shovel. Just as I reached for it, the scratching noise suddenly stopped. An uneasy silence settled in, thick and suffocating. I turned my head slightly, instinctively checking on Lisa. She seemed to be holding her breath. The air shifted, cool and prickling against my skin. I felt my pulse quicken. Something shifted in the darkness, a shadow moving behind the kitchen counter. I froze, my hand hovering over the shovel. And then I saw it. A figure crouched low, blending into the darkness. It was smaller than the first one. My stomach dropped. It looked familiar. "Wait," I breathed out. I stepped closer, my heart racing with recognition. "It's Gary." With renewed hope, I took another step forward, reaching out a hand. "Gary? Is that you?" The figure turned slowly, and my blood ran cold at the sight of his face. Hollow eyes stared back at me, empty and lost, a mask of despair stretched too tight over sunken cheeks. "Help me," he rasped, his voice barely audible. "They want me back." "Who?" I breathed. Before he could answer, the door creaked open, revealing another presence, one I had only glimpsed before. It was the tall figure from before, darker than the shadows around it. In its hand was a glowing object, pulsating with a life of its own. The moment felt like an eternity as I stared into the abyss of those empty eyes, frozen in place by Lisa's terrified gasp beside me. "Run!" she yelled suddenly, and without thinking, I turned, lunging for the door just as the figure advanced, its shadows stretching toward us. We were out of time. I grabbed Lisa's hand. Whatever held Gary didn't belong here. I could hear the growls again, louder now, and I pulled Lisa outside into the night, not stopping until we were far enough from the cabin to feel the weight of the woods pressing behind us. But then I saw it. The glowing handprint, still lingering on the door. I realized, with a chilling certainty, this wasn't over. Whatever had taken the others would not let us go that easily. Something terrible lay ahead. I ran with Lisa through the dark, familiar woods, the trees closing in like prison bars behind us. Fear propelled us forward, the branches clawing at our clothes, telling us to turn back, but we pushed on, adrenaline fueling our desperate flight. Deep down, I knew we couldn't go back to the cabin. Whatever had broken in would follow. We reached the old camp path, a narrow strip of dirt winding away from the chaos. I risked a glance over my shoulder and saw nothing but shadows. Maybe we had outrun it, maybe it was still just behind us, waiting. "Where are the others?" Lisa gasped, struggling to keep pace. "What happened to them?" I could only shake my head. I didn't know. They were lost in the entanglement of tree trunks and memories, swallowed by whatever hunted us. "We need to get to the lake." "It's our best chance," I replied, my voice strained. We continued, our breath coming out in foggy puffs. The stillness of the night felt heavier, laden with things unseen. Every rustle in the underbrush sent shivers racing down my spine, half expecting to find Gary or worse lurking in the dark. I couldn't shake the images of their hollow eyes from my mind. When we finally emerged at the lake's edge, I stopped, panting. The moon hung low and bright, casting silver threads across the water. It seemed peaceful, too peaceful given what we had left behind. "What are we doing?" Lisa asked, looking around anxiously. "Are we just going to stand here? Maybe it won't follow us here." "We need to think," I replied, trying to catch my breath. But as I surveyed the calm waters, unease washed over me. Something was stirring just below the surface. Suddenly, a splash broke the stillness, and I jumped, instinctively positioning myself in front of Lisa. The surface rippled, and for a moment, I thought I saw shadows writhing beneath the water, faces perhaps, faces of those who vanished. I shook my head. This isn't right. I glanced around, searching for any sign of our friends, half expecting them to come running out from the shadows, but the lake felt empty. It was just us now. "Mark, we need to," Lisa began, but her words were cut short as a chilling voice echoed across the water. "Help us," I whipped around, my heart racing. "Did you hear that?" I demanded. Lisa nodded, eyes wide with fear. The voice was haunting, a blend of familiar and foreign. "Please, I'm waiting." The whispers twisted around us, thick and palpable. I felt the ground beneath me tremble slightly, a warning maybe. "We can't stay here," I said urgently. But before we could retreat, something broke the surface, rising from the depths. Water glistened off long, dark hair, and as the figure heaved itself free, I realized with a sickening lurch who it was. "Hannah!" I shouted, my chest tightening as her pale, gaunt face emerged, hollowed by time, eyes wide with sorrow. "Help me please," she pleaded, reaching out a hand that seemed to beckon, pulling me closer to the edge of the lake. "No!" I yelled, forcing my legs to move back, dragging Lisa with me. "Stay away." But her voice was seductive, luring me in. "Mark, I'm here. Come, don't listen." Lisa screamed, shaking me. The whispers grew louder, more persistent, mixing with our pounding hearts. "This isn't what it seems. Something's wrong." I wanted to believe her, but the depths of the lake were calling, a promise of answers, of closure, perhaps even of our friends. The moonlight shimmered on the surface like a siren's song. Suddenly, the figure beneath the water surged forward, the glow from the handprint on the cabin door illuminating her face. "Help them, Mark!" My instincts screamed at me to run, but I was rooted in place, riveted by a mix of fear and hope. It felt so real. I could almost grasp them, almost pull them from the darkness that held them captive. Then, without warning, the surface erupted as more shapes erupted from the water, a terrifying array of faces, Gary among them, lips forming silent screams. All of them, desperate yet hauntingly beautiful amidst their despair. "No! We can't help them like this!" I shouted, tears brimming at the corners of my eyes. "They've changed. We have to go." Lisa dragged me backward as the figures advanced, many hands reaching out, the lost campers, so close yet still so far. I felt an icy grip around my ankle, and horror filled me as I stumbled and fell. "Mark!" Lisa cried. "Get up! Now! Desperation coursed through my veins as I fought against the weight dragging me down, reaching for the soft earth. But they surged closer. "Hannah!" I gasped, but she only smiled, her eyes mirroring a longing that chilled me. "Come join us," I pulled myself free, scrambling back away from the water's edge even as the grasping hands failed to tighten. Lisa's frantic yanking brought me back to my senses with a jolt, and I refocused on her, fueled with a primal instinct to survive. "We need to leave. Now!" she shouted, pulling me back down the path from where we came. We sprinted away from the voices that called after us, but I could still feel their pull, shadows lingering on the edges of my mind, clawing for connection. As we raced deeper into the woods toward the camp entrance, I knew I hadn't escaped the darkness, not yet. And as I looked back one last time, I whispered a promise I would never be able to keep. "I'll come back for you." But the shadows had already swallowed them whole, leaving a weight of despair in the moonlit remnants of a camp lost to time. It wasn't over, that much was clear. For though we had escaped, the memory of those we left behind would linger, a haunting specter in the depths of my mind, forever unanswered, forever unnerving.